Hello again. I have read with great interest the report prepared by Sue Gray into the various goings on at Downing Street. It seems that the police are investigating no fewer than 12 parties held at the Prime Minister's official residence in less than a year. That a Prime Minister should behave as though above the law must surely come as no surprise to anybody. Boris Johnson is not the first British Prime Minister to act like that, and I'm sure he will not be the last. It's what Prime Ministers do when they have a good working majority in the Commons. They feel invincible. Besides which, many of us were also riding a coach and horses through the various regulations and laws as well, so we can't be too harsh on the man. Sue Gray says that there was a culture of drinking at number 10 Downing Street, but that goes for many workplaces, so I don't suppose any of us are going to gasp in horror to learn that either. The thing which is extremely odd is that we may safely assume that all those who took part in these gatherings knew not only that they were illegal, but that they also officially constituted a serious danger to the health of those attending them and also their families back at home, should they contract some deadly virus while socialising with their chums and workmates. It is not hard to come to at least one conclusion, although Sue Gray does not appear to have spotted this, which is that all these people right at the heart of government, and including the Prime Minister and his wife, were not the least bit worried about COVID at the time that everybody else was terrified of the frightful dangers it posed to the country. In other words, unless they were selfish maniacs who did not care whether their children lived or died, or if they made anybody on the tube ill with germs they'd picked up or spread diseases on their way home, then those people must have known something more about the virus than we did at the time. I say this because if anybody in the United Kingdom knew in May and June 2020 what the real risk of catching COVID was, it must really have been the Prime Minister and his close circle of colleagues. He was the one with access to all the information, the man controlling the decisions being made. That he carried on as he did for a year at the height of the pandemic, acting as though the risk of infection was negligible, then I can only believe that he honestly thought that the risk was negligible. He did not think that those parties were a hazard to anybody, which is why he allowed them to go ahead and even attended some of them. I'm quite open to being persuaded that I'm drawing the wrong conclusion here, and that there is another explanation to what we saw. I have to say, though, that having read the report and compared what was happening in the Prime Minister's home and garden with what was going on in other people's homes and gardens across the rest of the country, I can only think that Johnson was working on a different set of assumptions and assessments of the risk posed by COVID to those which everybody else thought was the case. Would he have carried on like this if it threatened his wife and child with a deadly virus? Probably not. I give him credit for at least that much compassion and common sense. All of which means, unless I'm very much mistaken, that he had access to and was judging the risks to his immediate family by standards which were very different from those announced publicly. I would be curious to know if anybody commenting here can come up with a different explanation. In the description to this video, I give a link to Sue Gray's report.